Like other genres of music, heavy metal has a press that is unique to its sound. Websites such as blabbermouth.net, Metal Injection, Metal Storm, etc. all deliver heavy metal news, album release information, new singles, and interviews. However, there are a few hard music superstars that seem to be mainstays on these sites and other places among the press, with their opinions and sound bites overshadowing important information and causing debate or reaction. Hi. These are superstars that we could easily live without knowing how they like their steak, either that or whether or not they think that Colin Kaepernick is an asshole or not. We see these names so often that they've been burned into our memories, so here are 10 hard rock or heavy metal superstars that we are tired of hearing about, and of course we start with number 10. Number 10 is M. Shadows of Avenged Sevenfold. Now, this is not one that you see as much here in 2016, but a couple of years ago, M. Shadows was in the news constantly on these websites talking about his opinions of the past, say, 15 years, stating that metal has really been on a downturn since the 1990s, which seems to be a reverse opinion of what a lot of other people think. You know, a lot of people said that metal was dying in the 90s, and now it was good in the 90s. What's going on here? And then also saying that the metalcore has been forgotten about. Well, that's also not exactly 100% true, though deathcore has kind of taken over. Really, things like this is what caused M. Shadows to get really very newsworthy articles during the first portion of the 2010s. Oftentimes being retweeted, oftentimes being talked about, discussed. The comment sections on these topics were absolutely mammoth. Either way, it certainly spurned a lot of debate, though these days you're going to see him talking more about how they're a little bit lackadaisical about writing the new record, how they have a brand new drummer, and not much else. Number 9 is Scott Ian. Now, Scott Ian has commented on just about everything from heavy metal to, what songs in the 90s were good, thanks to VH1. However, he's a guy that still every so often, whenever he pops up on these websites, definitely causes some debate based around his opinions on things. Scott is the type of guy who's a bit outspoken, and based off of his experience doing these things for a network, it's definitely one where he's unafraid to really go there, so to speak. He's not necessarily as bad as some of the people higher up on this list. However, he's still a guy that whenever he decides to open his mouth, definitely garners attention, and it's not always the attention that's good. Number 8, we have Lars Ulrich, and we're going to be seeing this a lot more now that Metallica has their brand new album coming out in November. In fact, to give you a good recent example, somebody asked Lars Ulrich if the new Metallica album sounds like a Metallica album. Well, of course it sounds like a Metallica album, you moron. They're the band. It's them. They produce the music. They didn't hire off some other assholes to come in and just write the album, and they just sat back. It's just like, yeah, we're going to pass this off as a Metallica album. This is pretty good. So even though Lars Ulrich catches a lot of flack for Saint Anger, catches a lot of flack for Lulu, catches a lot of flack for not dying whenever Cliff Burton did, whatever the hell it might be, Lars is still a guy who's willing to go out there, put his stamp on something that he likes to say, and it definitely causes a lot of debate. With the most recent article that I just spoke to you about gaining over 300 different comments on one site, it was not something that was talked about on this channel, though I guarantee you that if it was, it wouldn't have been pretty. Number 7, Phil Anselmo. We've seen this a lot, especially in 2016, the first part of this year, with the whole, is he racist? Did he do something that was white power? What does he have to say about this or that? Oftentimes talking about music, talking about the PC nature of the world that surrounds, Phil is not exactly a guy that keeps things quiet, and that's okay, considering Phil traditionally has some okay opinions on certain things. By the way, honorable mention for this list, Rob Flynn. My God, 2016 was a lot more annoying thanks to Rob Flynn. But Phil is a guy that's been doing this for years and has constantly been in the news considering some of the press that happened after the death of Dimebag Darrell, and it has just continued onward ever since with any sort of opinion that he has garnered or any sort of brand new project that he has been really flaunting has immediately become front page news. And based around that, there are some folks out there that just want nothing to do with it anymore. Phil is dead to them, especially after what happened in January. Number 6 is David Draiman. David Draiman recently had a just mind-boggling statement that stated that Disturbed transcends all, traditional heavy metal or music genre classifications. And while every band wants to feel that they are unique, for Dave and the boys it seems a little bit strange, a little bit off. Now, granted, they're a fringe line band, but hey, we're not even going to get into that. Dave, throughout the years, has said a lot of silly stuff, and it's always become front-page news, from his interviews about The Sound of Silence, the interviews about the most recent album, the interviews about why Disturbed was on hiatus, the interviews about Device, the interviews about why people hated Device or why they liked Device. We've heard a lot out of David Draiman, and most cases it's been in caps lock. Either way, David Draiman is on this list considering every single time something comes up, it always seems to have some sort of opinion that doesn't really matter very much, but if it does have to do with the music, even then it's really kind of debatable. Speaking of that, number 5, Dave Mustaine. Dave, ever since he's gone Christian, has certainly become an interesting boy. He was always outspoken all the way back to the 1980s and was perceived as kind of a mean guy. We, of course, just recently saw his debates and his whole meltdown with Havoc based around their whole presence on his tour. Oh, wait, by presence I mean not anymore. Aside from that, this is a man that is not exactly shy about talking about religion, about talking about other bands and the things that they've done well or, done very poorly, and politics. Politics is definitely a really, really big thing for old Davey Boy Smith, and no, we're not talking about that one. Davey here definitely needs to take a chill pill and maybe, chill out a little bit more than he has been, or else he might end up on the next four's list, which is really the Mount Rushmore of shut the fuck up, please, and it's not always their fault. It is the fault of number 4, however. Number 4 is Ted Nugent. A couple of years ago, Ted Nugent was an absolute absurd man that was calling for everything from the execution of Barack Obama to, this or that. Basically talking about he was going to live into a cave. He was going to be a caveman. He was going to wangozy tango his way into the Stone Age and bring it back. And Teddy has not exactly been the most sane of men. It's certainly been proven over the past couple of decades. However, whenever he opens his mouth, it certainly seems like he's just a little bit loco in the cabeza. Now, this has nothing to do with who he supports, whether he supports Donald Trump, doesn't like this, or doesn't like that. That all is kind of, water under the bridge. The real reality is do we even give a crap who these folks are really, akin to supporting? Is this something that we really want to hear about all the time? Because believe me, as the election cycle starts to ramp up again, because we heard plenty of this during the first half of the year, it's going to happen again. We're going to get more opinions based upon this idea, and you can almost be guaranteed that Uncle Teddy Boy is going to show back up once again and definitely tell you why Donald Trump is the best suited man for the presidency of the United States. He might as well just write an album called I Like Uncle Teddy, and Uncle Teddy likes Uncle Donnie, and they have a circle jerk. I don't know. This is a terrible title. Who gives a shit? Let's move on. Number 3 is Gene Simmons, who you probably thought would be number 1. However, Gene Simmons a couple of years ago made international headlines with his proclamation that rock is dead, and after a couple of years have passed, it's hard to really argue with him yes, it's actually really, really easy to argue with him, considering there's a lot of different derivations of rock that are out there that are doing just fine, such as indie rock. However, with Gene Simmons, it certainly has not stopped ever since then, most recently talking about Prince and just how his death was absolutely terrible, considering he essentially killed himself. He's had insensitive statements about Robin Williams' suicide, and also should be respected because he's rich. Either way, this is something that infuriates. However, we've not exactly heard much from Gene lately, except for recently, whenever he stated that he stands by his statements about Prince. Either way, it's something that's gotten his bandmates involved, it's gotten other people involved, and thanks to you, Mr. Simmons, there is a reaction video on this very channel that is pretty well beloved. Number 2, Kerry King, and oh my god, this is absolutely absurd. Kerry King in 2016 has decided that he just wants to sort of become one of these known people for spouting off their opinion, but I guess that as time has told, this is somebody who's been doing this for quite some time. Did you know that Metallica and Iron Maiden are simply living off of their past, and that's all that they're really doing? There's no reason why bands should, be putting out new material. Oh, wait, that wasn't him. That was J.J. French, another honorable mention. Throw Philip Bonte on there as well for saying that he transcended metal as well. Either way, Kerry King has had his fair share of real moments this year that have just left people scratching their heads and wondering whether or not Kerry understood what band he was in or what planet he was on. Either way, Kerry's opinions have become front page almost every single time that they have come out of his mouth. It's definitely gotten to the point of annoyance, and it's starting to make me wonder if they're going to run an interview where he, talks about whether he uses Mr. Clean or turtle wax on his bald head. Either way, Kerry definitely has earned his position on the Mount Rushmore of shut the fuck up, but a little disclaimer before number 1. Before we get to number 1, something that needs to be understood is that some of these folks don't actually need to shut the fuck up. In fact, a lot of them don't. One of the main reasons why all of this is getting so much attention is based around those being the stories that are run. And one of the reasons why they're always being run is because they constantly get flooded with comments, views. It's the same thing as YouTube, essentially. It gets them their revenue. These websites are running these articles based around the fact that they constantly bring in the attention. They bring in the metrics, and it helps these websites stay afloat. So really, if you want to give other people a chance and have some of these folks no longer appear on your screen, or at least appear a little bit seldom, just transfer some of your attention elsewhere and you'll have the same result. If you don't care whether or not Amy Lee is releasing a kids album, which I certainly don't, that's fine. But find something else that's worth your time. That's all that I'm saying. But at the same time, websites like Blabbermouth and such, keep on doing what you do. Considering I'll always have something to talk about, considering half of this stuff borderlines on the absolutely absurd. That brings us to number one, and he's a guy that really doesn't need to shut up. People just need to stop shoving, dicrophones in his face. He essentially probably feels like a porn star at this stage. That's Corey Taylor. Corey Taylor just recently was on the front page of Blabbermouth because seeing Lionel Richie changed his life. And yeah, Lionel Richie's a great artist. Lionel Richie is somebody that should inspire other people to become a musician. But is it something that should be front page news on a heavy metal website? Probably not. Is it something that should be anywhere outside of perhaps the interview video or whatever it might be? Probably not. But there it was. And this happens all the time. No matter what Corey Taylor does, whether he is slapping a phone out of somebody's hand, whether he's talking about his injured back, whether he's talking about Slipknot, whether he's talking about himself, whether he's talking about the weather, whether he's talking about Pringles, whether he's talking about his opinion of Mittens the Heavy Metal Kitten, it's bound to be front page news on blabbermouth.net, Metal Injection, or one of these websites. It's kind of absurd, it's kind of obscene, and Corey himself isn't really all of that game for it. Speaking in an interview recently, which by the way was only found on YouTube, and was responding to some of the Glenn Benton claims, he stated that it is absolutely crazy and he never imagined himself as the mouthpiece of the band. He's grown to sort of adapt to the role, however it's not one that he's necessarily fond of. So why does this continue to happen? Why is Slipknot being featured on the cover of magazines for 14 to 15 months straight? Are they the biggest thing running? Not anymore, and even whenever that happened, it wasn't all that important. So really, Corey's a guy that we could definitely see a lot less on these websites, and it would improve our lives a lot, and really, it would improve his a lot as well. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 10 hard rock or heavy metal superstars we're tired of hearing about. Do you think that any were missed? If so, please leave those ideas in the comments below. If you have an idea for a top 10 list, leave that in the comments below as well. My name is coverkillernation, and I'll talk to each and every one of you guys next time, unless you're annoyed of talking, me be talking here a little while. This outro is really going south in a fucking hurry. If you're tired of me, then too bad. This is what I do. So yeah, go watch PewDiePie or a Minecraft video, or go watch somebody do their nails, you prick.